Ethan Carter had everything money could buy: luxury cars, a sprawling mansion in the heart of New York, and a business empire that had made him one of the most influential entrepreneurs in the country. But none of it mattered when he came home to an empty house filled with memories of his late wife and the quiet presence of his son, Oliver. Oliver was only 6 years old, but his world was different from most children his age. A car accident when he was a toddler had left him unable to walk, bound to a wheelchair, and struggling with speech delays. The love of Ethan's life, Emily, had died in that same crash, leaving him to navigate fatherhood alone. And despite his best efforts, he felt like he was failing. Ethan wanted to be there for Oliver, but his business demanded too much of him. He needed help, someone who could not only care for Oliver but truly understand him. After a string of unsuccessful nannies who seemed more interested in their paychecks than in his son, Ethan was running out of options. Then, one day, she arrived. Sophie Brooks didn't look like the typical nanny Ethan had hired before. She was young, maybe in her mid-20s, with kind eyes and a warm smile. There was a quiet strength about her, something in the way she carried herself that made Ethan pause. "Mr. Carter, I know your son needs more than just basic care. He needs love, patience, and someone who believes in him," she said confidently during the interview. Ethan was skeptical. Too many people had said the same thing before. But something about Sophie felt different. "You're hired," he said, surprising even himself. From the moment Sophie stepped into the house, everything began to change. She didn't treat Oliver as if he were fragile or broken. She spoke to him like a little boy full of potential. She encouraged him to try new things, read him stories with excitement, and even sang to him when he struggled to sleep at night. Ethan noticed the difference almost immediately. Oliver, who had once been withdrawn and hesitant, began to smile more. He responded better, even laughed, a sound Ethan hadn't heard in so long it almost made him cry. One evening, as Ethan watched from a distance, he saw Sophie kneeling beside Oliver, her voice filled with warmth. "You are so strong, Oliver. You know, superheroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes, they fight battles inside their hearts, and that makes them even braver." Ethan felt something stir inside him, an unfamiliar feeling of hope. But then, curiosity got the best of him. He had installed security cameras in the house to ensure Oliver's safety. He hadn't checked the footage in weeks, but something about Sophie's kindness made him uneasy. It almost felt too good to be true. That night, Ethan sat in his study and opened the surveillance footage. He fast-forwarded through the days, watching as Sophie cared for Oliver with unwavering patience. She made silly faces to cheer him up, held him close when he struggled, and celebrated every tiny victory as if it were the greatest achievement in the world. Then, as he continued watching, he noticed something unusual. Late at night, when the house was silent and everyone was asleep, Sophie would sit by Oliver's bedside. She held his tiny hands in hers, tears glistening in her eyes. And then she whispered words that shook Ethan to his core. "I'm so sorry, Oliver. I should have saved you that day. I should have done more." Ethan's heart pounded. What was she talking about? He rewound the footage, watching closely, and the truth hit him like a tidal wave. The next morning, Ethan confronted Sophie. She was in the living room, helping Oliver with his drawing when Ethan walked in, his expression unreadable. "Sophie, I checked the security footage," he said. His voice was calm, but there was an intensity in his eyes. Sophie's face went pale. "Why did you say you should have saved him?" Tears welled up in her eyes, and she took a deep breath, as if bracing herself. "Because, Mr. Carter, I was there the day of the accident." Ethan's world seemed to tilt. "I was a nurse at the hospital. I was the one who held Oliver's hand when they brought him in. I promised him he would be okay. I tried everything to save your wife, but I couldn't." Ethan felt like he had been punched in the gut. Sophie wiped her tears. "I left nursing after that day. I couldn't bear the pain. But then, when I saw the job posting for a nanny, I knew it wasn't just a coincidence. I had to be here. I had to do something for him, even if it was in a different way. Ethan looked at her, his emotions tangled between shock, grief, and something else, something deeper. For years, he had blamed fate, life, and even himself for losing Emily. But now, standing before him was a woman who had carried the same guilt, who had suffered in silence, and who had found her own way to make amends. That night, Ethan watched as Sophie and Oliver played together, their laughter echoing through the house. For the first time in years, he felt something he had almost forgotten, peace. He walked over, kneeling beside them. "Sophie. I don't think Emily would want either of us to carry this pain anymore." Sophie met his gaze, her eyes filled with unspoken emotions. "She would want us to focus on what matters, Oliver." Sophie nodded, a single tear rolling down her cheek. "He deserves the best. And that's exactly what he's getting," Ethan said, looking at Oliver, who smiled up at him. A family. From that day forward, things were different. Ethan made more time for Oliver, not just as a father but as a man determined to embrace the present instead of drowning in the past. Sophie stayed, not as a nanny but as a part of their family. And though the scars of loss remained, they no longer defined their story. Instead, they became reminders of the love that still endured. The kind of love that transformed pain into purpose. Life has a way of bringing people together when they need it the most. Ethan had searched for someone to care for his son, but he had found much more, a second chance at healing, at love, and at embracing the future.